Hey YouTubers, what's up? This is Layla. Today I am going to show you how to make homemade sugar, or not sugar, but homemade maple syrup, but it's extremely sugary. And what you need for this really is going to be the simple ingredients. Measuring cup, some vanilla extract, brown sugar, and white sugar. And to mix everything, you need a small, not small, but medium to large bowl. So, we are going to get to doing some sugary maple syrup. Actually, in close of my 100th video, I'm on video number 99. So today, I'm going to show you how to do it. Unfortunately, I have very little room to work with, to show the camera. Now, what I'm going to do, first priority first, I'll move the bowl out of the way so you get to see what I'm doing. The first thing you need to do, which is important because brown sugar, if you leave it in a jar, it gets hard. So what I'm doing, if I can open it, I don't know the last time I opened it, but here we go. I'm just breaking up a little bit of the sugar, a little bit of the brown sugar there. Just kind of scrape up whatever I can left in there. And normally, for brown sugar, you want to put as much as in there as possible. I probably won't have enough to do the actual cup size I need for it. Generally would run up to a cup, but given the circumstances, as I'm scraping off on the excess bottom, as you can tell, I'm just kind of getting as much as I can get in there. It might be a little weak, but in the case of this type of ingredient, I'm going to go less than about a cup. So I'm doing about maybe 3/4 cup of brown sugar for this batch. Unfortunately, I don't have very much brown sugar, as you can see. But this is a homemade syrup recipe. You can vary the sugar content, but which normally requires a cup of sugar. No big deal. About 3/4 of this will be plenty enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take a large bowl and going to dump the brown sugar in there. But if you want to make it super strong, you would use about a cup of brown sugar. I wouldn't really recommend that unless if you're going to be super hyper and you want to power a city block. So now the next step, I know I'm using the same thing, trying not to avoid the cross contamination. So now the next process is going to be a cup of regular sugar. So what I'm doing is I'll take it out of here, which is a granulated, it's an extra fine granulated sugar, which I actually had gotten that price right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I'm doing. And I know this is going to be a little wonky kind of syrup, but the flavor should make for it with the maple syrup additive, which I'll show you later in the video. What I'm going to do, I got to keep this open as much as I possibly can. I just don't like the idea that, you know, the bag been into this for a while. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep piling up the regular sugar into this little bowl, just to make sure I get a good cup out of this. A lot of times I actually make homemade syrup, and this is how I normally do it. But since I'm using a little bit less than the brown sugar, it's still going to come out the same. Maybe not as strong, but it will be good to have done. Now, usually once, twice a year I go about making this. And it lasts for weeks. But I wouldn't really use a lot of it for the sugar extract, because too much of this stuff in one sitting is not good. And as you can tell, I'm just sifting in the measuring cup to measure out the actual amount I need. As you can tell, I'm going more up onto the, until I get a full cup of regular white sugar. So it's a lot of sugary goodness, which can make anybody hyper. And if you're diabetic, I really wouldn't recommend having any. Like, if someone were to make this for you, or I shouldn't, let me rephrase that. Nobody who's diabetic should actually have this. What if somebody's making it, for breakfast for anybody? This is something extremely dangerous for somebody who's diabetic, who's got type 1 or type 2, or anybody who's diabetic. And I want to put that in there. So in this case, anybody who's into the sugar and wants a big sugar rush and a mound of syrup, then I can say go ahead and do it. Now, I'm going to pour this cup of sugar in with the ball. As you can tell, it's actually in there. It doesn't look like very much. And that's okay, because I haven't added another ingredient to it. So, I'm going to put the regular sugar back into the gallon bag I have here. I'll just leave that off to the side. Now, the next little ordeal of business is a cup of water. Now, a lot of times when doing these kind of said recipes, this is more of a homemade variation recipe. Now, I need to make sure this is a cup of water and not over. Because in a way, this is actually pretty vital. Even if you go a little over, you're okay. And according to that, you have your cup of water. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the water, I'm just going to pour this whole cup in. As you can tell, I'm laying the actual sugar into there. It looks kind of like disgusting, it looks murky, but you actually get to change that by mixing it in with a spoon. Now, what I'm going to show you is you just stir it in much as you can for a little bit until some of the sugar has dissolved. Now, this kind of batch, like I said, this will make anybody super hyper. I mean, I kind of like turn it that way. But now, as you can tell, it's getting like to this consistency of almost like a mapley, sugarish kind of look. Now, usually in my process, what I do is I actually take a a saucepan. Now, the reason why I'm taking a saucepan, I gotta find a little small one that was used. It's gotta be somewhere in here somewhere. Actually, something of this size will actually work for the maple syrup, for the mix. Now, what I'm gonna do before I do anything else is I clean the countertop top off a little bit. I stir a little bit before I start putting it in there. Now, I'm going to give you some advice. When you actually boil this you want to let it boil for like about a minute. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm just pouring all this in here. It kind of looks like something you see in a King Arthur movie with the Lady of the Lake. murky and this looks kind of disgusting looking. I know, but now I put the oven, and temperature wise, now I'm going to use the front burner because this is an old traditional, very old stove that goes back to the 1970s. So I'm going to put it up to a medium, I would say about like a medium temp, or you can go medium high. However, you don't want to go any more higher than the temperature recommended. Now I'm going to close some of this up, and I'm going to clean up the countertop a little bit more so we have at least a little bit more workable space. As you can tell, I got to put these away, so give me a second and I will show you. Alright, so, you know, I don't know, what am I stepping on? Oh, piece of tape. Go figure. Anyways, so what's going to happen is, normally, when you have something that actually, if I can turn the camera, I'm letting this boil for about a minute. And while that goes on, I'm going to start grabbing a teaspoon. Here we are. Now, grabbing this teaspoon right here will actually help, and there's a reason what I am going to show you on. As soon as this boils, I'm going to show you exactly what you can do to actually bring this very good, you know, to a very good taste. I'm just going to stir this up a little bit inside the pan. Make sure some of the sugar gets cooked over or boiled over. Don't let this sit. I mean, it's not this right now is not boiled, but you don't want to let it sit for too long because then it'll burn. It's like almost working like with chocolate, but this is like super sugary. It may be the same consistency as chocolate. I always get that messed up. But what I'm doing is I'm just stirring this up a little bit. Not want to let it go for too long, but I also want to cure it before I even do any other things to it. Now, do not put this on any paper towels because it will stick. That's a little key thing there that is one thing I do have to say, and it's a bitch to get off. Maybe a little easy with some soap and water, but I don't let it sit on anything, but I don't want it to sit in the pan while it's heating. So what I'm also going to do, let me just go clean this plate off real quick. Well, I'm actually going to let it sit on a plate. It's wet with water, so it should not be a problem. Now, always best to okay, as weird as this sounds, I know I just had to go into the back room here, but what I'm gonna do, and what's always best, get like a plastic Tupperware or something to pour it in. And luckily for me, I have another bit of it in the fridge I actually made from weeks ago. And I'll show you what the finished product looks like, given the fact that I can find it. Oh dear. Uh-oh. We didn't use it, did we? Oh, that's just a kick in the giblets. I had one that was a fresh batch. Okay. got one. So, regardless of what happens, oh wait, where's it in the other one? Oh, there it is. Never mind, found it. Well, let me show you a little bit of an early version of this. I'll move that. This is starting to boil a little bit. Okay, now I just gotta shut this off. Let it cure for a bit. Now this is what it looks like inside. This is the actual syrup that was done a couple of weeks ago, and it's really good too. I always make more, but what I'm gonna do now, desired effect for making this. For me, whoops, I'm gonna grab a teaspoon, some vanilla extract. Now what I'm going to do is I'm only taking a teaspoon. However, you can actually do more than just a teaspoon. It depends on how much you want to use desirably. Most people do 1 teaspoon, some do 2. If they want the extra goodness of the maple syrup taste. Now what I'm going to do is I'll pour a little bit, about a teaspoon I probably would do. As you can tell, only use very little extract because it's a lot of sugar in that too. What I'm doing is now I'm dumping that in there. I'm going to close up the lid of the vanilla extract. You can get this anywhere really. You can get it at Big Y, you can get it at Stop and Shop. Very easy to do. Very easy to get. Sometimes I've actually used a different type of extract. If you don't have the maple syrup extract, I can also recommend a if I can find it, is actually a vanilla extract, which I'm using actually. And then here's the maple extract also that you can get from like McCormick. But I'm actually using the vanilla extract, which is pretty much like a different version. It's not going to be the same. It's not going to cross-contaminate with that because I have another piece of plastic that's going to go for it. Now what I'm doing is I'm actually stirring it in, you know, as this is all sitting. But I'm also trying to not cross-contaminate between the maple and the vanilla. I only can do 2 different variations. However, I can also start doing a strawberry, you know, almost like a strawberry flavor if I wanted to. Now, it's always important, I mean, like right here, this is clean enough, so I don't have to do very much. So I'm going to go and put this one away. Well, put it off to the side. Now what I'm going to do generally is something of this is not going to be enough for something of that. So, I'll show you what container I'm using. This one here is a Rubbermaid container which I will use for this particular syrup. Which means I have to buy more maple, not maple syrup, more brown sugar sometime this week. Now, what I'm already going to do is just I'm going to pour it in here, so you get to see. So now I'm going to pour it in here very gracefully. And I can always use this as a container if I decide to make another batch of this. Now, the trick a lot of people don't get when you do curing of sugar, well now, you have it. Now I'm just going to take a little taste of it, which really won't be that bad. It's going to be a little hot, but it won't be bad. I'm just going to see if I can get a little bit out of there. And it's good. you don't want to go heavy. 1 teaspoon. That's definitely really good. I like this and both the maple. This is by far good. This is better than going to the store and buying it yourself. Just use a cup of sugar, a cup of brown sugar. Well, actually 3 things you need. Well, 4. So you need either maple or vanilla extract. You need a cup of brown sugar, a cup of white sugar. Let the actual liquid boil before you add the extract. Let the sugary vat boil for about a minute, or let it heat up for about a minute so it cures it. Then you can add your teaspoon of either the maple or the vanilla. And trust me, you do this, if you make your own maple syrup in this version, even though it's going to be a lot of sugar, it saves a lot of time, and it saves a little bit of money on your shopping bill when you go out and get maple syrup. You go to if you go to a store that sells maple syrup, you're looking anywhere between $4 to $5, depending on the brand. I mean, there are people, you know, this is like a really old style recipe I actually picked up in a cookbook, which I found. Took a print picture of it, and there you have it. So if this video was actually helpful to save money on buying maple syrup and you want to make your own, this is the best way to go. Homemade version is a good thing. However, it's a lot of sugar, but in the long run, it is so good. And trust me, this is actually natural based, as much as you can get, as closest to the maple trees out in Vermont. But it works, it just works wonderful. So anyways, this is Layla Donovan signing out. And the next video is going to be my 100th video. And hoping that you guys can tag along for the next video. Yeah, so stay tuned for another fun-filled video, and I will look forward to hearing from you guys. Bye for now.